Hello and welcome back to Within Our Sacred Wall. And uh, this time we're trying to explore something that fits into the current season we are in. That's the Advent season leading up to Christmas, and trying to explore things that we've been uh, doing as part of our Christmas preparation tradition, as we've been growing up. And I remember you just asked me that what are the things like you've been doing that are unique for Christmas, And I said, no, I've not been really doing anything unique. I've been doing the standard stuff, like, preparation. I mean, growing up, literally, we didn't really have an Advent tradition. It was all about Christmas.
Yeah,
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 going for confession,
yeah.
and then the rest of it was all like preparing for mass, of course, and then all the food around it, and the clothes, and meeting up his friends, the Christmas party,
Yes.
and then growing up going for the Christmas dance, and then when we growing up in Mumbai, we used to have this Bangalorean Association, and then we would have the
Right.
Bangalorean Association Christmas party, and then you would have sports and all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of memories, and of course, where we grew up, there were a lot of Catholics, and you could feel Christmas in the air when it came. You were close to the church, walking distance from the church. So growing up, Christmas was always fun. So yeah, over the years we've learned a thing or two. But how was it for you? I mean, for me, I feel mine was quite. I won't say bad, but it was ordinary. Nothing extraordinary or
Right.
something.
Right.
Yeah, everything that everyone else did. Yeah.
It was different for me in the sense that I grew up in India. So a lot of the traditions I had growing up were similar to what you've mentioned. Preparing for Christmas, caroling, playing Christmas carols, decorating, making sweets, going for Christmas mass and all of that. And then we went to Canada. I was in Canada for about 15 years and got introduced to a couple of different traditions. And what I thought was there's something magical almost about those traditions that made our Christmases a lot more special. And it's something that we can introduce and incorporate in our lives, and everyone can do that. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today. Maybe some of you have heard of them. Maybe some of you are already using and incorporating them, or maybe you haven't heard of them and it's something you can introduce and incorporate in your life. Okay. So the first one is a Polish tradition, and it's called Oplatek. I'm probably butchering the name here, but it's called
Okay.
Oplatek. Okay, Oplatek. It originated in Poland, and this was around the 10th century. And then it got really popular and started moving to other neighboring countries, particularly Lithuania and Slovakia. We have a Polish family, some friends in Canada, who have, of course, been following this tradition for years, and then they introduced us to it as well. And so now we've started doing it ourselves as well. So it all revolves around a wafer. Okay. Very similar to the Eucharistic, the host, right? And that's where the roots are deep rooted in Catholicism. The word Oplatek comes from the Latin word oblatum, which means offering. And I find that really fascinating because Polish is not a Latin based language, but yet we have this word that is so central to our faith, the Eucharist and all of that, that is stemming from Latin. And it has a strong connection with the Eucharistic bread. And what happens is during the season of Advent in Poland, they put out this basket of wafers after Mass or that, and people can go and pick it up and take it home. Now, the wafer is unleavened bread. I believe how it's made is exactly the same as the Eucharistic host, except that this practice is not liturgical. It's not supposed to be done in church. It's not even supposed to compete with the Eucharist in any form. So it's purely symbolic, yet it's really, really beautiful. Now, this wafer, of course, symbolizes Christ and Christ's presence in us, and one of the differences, so two differences between this Oplatek wafer and the wafer that we receive during communion. One of them is the shape of it. So it's not round, it's rectangular and significantly quite bigger than the communion host. The second difference is that it has embossed on the bread some kind of symbolism of the nativity. So it could actually be the nativity itself, or it could be the Star of Bethlehem or something in that genre. And of course, that reminds us of the nativity and the advent and the anticipation and coming of Christ and all of these things. So those are the two differences. The actual tradition is celebrated on Christmas Eve. In Poland, the word for Christmas Eve is called Vigilia. Again, I'm probably butchering the name. And of course, it comes from vigil. We all have the Christmas vigil. So Vigilia. And Lithuania, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name, but it has its own, they have their own name for Christmas Eve. It's got all these accents and all of that, and I have no idea how. In regular English, it would be Kusios, but again, I don't know how it's pronounced in Lithuania. And it's really interesting. So on the evening of Christmas Eve at dusk is when it starts. The youngest member of the family goes out of the house and looks for the first appearance of a star, any star, right? And the moment this youngest member sees the star, runs home and announces to the whole family, "I've seen the star," right? So it's a beautiful, it gives the youngest member always needs, kids need something special, some special role or whatever, right? So this of course symbolizes the star that guided the Magi to the manger. And so they come home, they announce it, and then the entire family is ready for the tradition, right? So they have the wafer. The head of the family, which is generally the father, but it could be the oldest person, grandfather, grandmother, whatever, would break the wafer, right? It's like breaking the bread, and then offering it to everyone, offering a piece to every family member. And while this is happening, they exchange wishes, good wishes for the new year and all of that, right? And it reminds me, so we are both I was part of Youth for Christ, now called Missionaries for Christ. I think Missionaries for Christ Youth, I think it's what it's called. I'm not part of the...
It's called MFC Youth.
MFC Youth, yeah.
Missionary Families of Christ
Youth. Yeah, so I was very active at the time. And whenever we had a major event, not a one-day thing, we would have an honoring session. Do you do that still? Yeah, it's a very common thing.
It's typically, we do that, yeah.
It reminded me of that. It also reminds me of Thanksgiving in Canada and US. It's more popular there. Some families do a round of what am I thankful for. Sometimes it's during Thanksgiving, sometimes it's in the new year. It reminds me of that, except that these are supposed to be just best wishes. What happened to us was the last time we did it, which was last year, we did the best wishes, but we also did this kind of honoring session where we just went around the family and said, things we appreciate about them for the entire year and all of that. And all of that while sharing and eating a piece of this wafer, right? Which is like communion host, except that it's not consecrated and it's not a liturgical ceremony. There's a prayer that goes along with it. So they go back and forth. The phrase that is used a lot is, "and the word was made flesh," right? And they go back and forth. The leader would say, "and the word was made flesh," and everyone would say, "and dwelt amongst us." And, there'll be a reading from the Bible. It's just a wonderful ceremony that doesn't take too much time. It takes about 10 minutes. Here is something that came more recently with the pandemic. Along with the Christmas card, Polish families would also mail this wafer, this Oplatek, to their families and loved ones. And this makes so much sense for people outside of Poland where they don't get this Oplatek bread. It's not available. Wafer's not available. It is getting more popular though. In Canada and US, you can order it from Amazon. I don't know if it's available in India. Probably not. But it doesn't have to be, right? If we want to celebrate that, you could substitute that with maybe unconsecrated host. You could go to your local parish and find out who makes their host and then get it that way. Or you can just use regular bread, right? Because the focus that here is more about the breaking and the sharing and the wishing everyone and, bringing unity with your family. Maybe one day we could invite someone from Poland or Lithuania and ask them how they have been celebrating it.
How do they celebrate? That would be awesome, man. It just reminded me, like in the Missionary Families of Christ community, we have the Lord's Supper night, right? Typically, we do that once in a way. where we same thing. We pray and honor each other, and then we have the grape juice and the
Right.
bread and
Right.
so on. It's not like mass, but there's
Symbolic.
yeah. So we gather around a large table. We used to typically do it in Pune at the retreat place at Loyola School. They have a lovely place. So a good, in the dining hall, a good 30, 40 of us would be sitting around, and, a chapter servant would, area servant would, the whole Lord's Supper. So yeah, it's very similar. Quite interesting. When you said they would leave baskets outside the door and all that, I was just thinking, like, we live in apartments, so
No, in the church.
little
Baskets in the church itself, like on the side.
they live in the church.
Yeah.
That would be good.
On
That
the
would be
side.
something which we could probably do. Yeah. Probably we if something like that, we could either do that, or we make an Indian equivalent of it, and or rotis or the naans or something like that. Yeah. We could do that.
So this is not only Polish. So we had gone for a Byzantine service once, Catholic service in Canada. And after the communion, and the communion was, of course, with consecrated bread, and it was similar but different. They also had the symbolic sharing of bread as well. And they would give pieces of bread to everyone. And this bread was interesting. It didn't look like the type of bread you would find in the store. And it wasn't like the communion host. It wasn't the wafer either. It was somewhere in between. But it looks like they have, that community at least has these two different breads that they make. I don't even know if it's leavened or unleavened. But that second communion, quote unquote, at the end of Mass is more like a symbolic service. And I think it's so that, even children who have not received communion can also partake in that, or those who are not Catholic can also partake in that.
So these are good things that we can definitely do. I think worth a try. I think we should, try to think about it and create some kind of structure and try to implement it maybe this year, ideally this year, because Christmas suggested hand might as well try it out, see what the reactions are from everyone, and we learn as we go. I mean, because when we have something like this, and what I like is it involves the whole family. So irrespective of age. So we need to think of incentives, especially for the young, to to participate wholesomely. So we can make it some new tradition. Right. New tradition from the old tradition of someone else. So, why not? I mean, if it enriches the whole Christmas experience, and it'll be something we look forward to, right? I mean, just as we look forward to Christmas and spending time with family. And if this is, and it's something memorable which the next generation will always connect with, with Christmas time.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and hope this was helpful, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.